From being out of the game for years to returning to win the heavyweight championship, Jon Jones has finally settled the GOAT debate as he beat Ciryl Gane at UFC 285. And here's what MMA pros thought about the matchup. For starters, he might just be the best pound-for-pound fighter ever to grace the octagon. What a performance, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it almost ended a little soon if you ask me. And as for Jones, he's once again proved that absolutely no one can stop him. All it took was a guillotine and 2 minutes for Jon to snatch the title and add another achievement to his long list of accolades. And you know what's funny is the only significant strike Gane was able to land was a low blow. So there's another lesson for every heavyweight out there. Don't kick Jon Jones below the belt. But yeah, it was a dominant performance as usual.
Left hand over the top for Jones.
And for everyone who thought Ciryl actually stood a chance, it was a real wake-up call. Featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski thought there was absolutely nothing unusual about that performance. It was just Jon Jones doing Jon Jones things.
And I think as Jon expected, which is why Jon is so tuned in. Oh, beautiful left uppercut.
Former UFC fighter Ben Askren was also blown away by how quickly things unfolded inside the cage. I mean, I sort of had a bad feeling Jon's ground game would be a bit too much for Gane, but just 2 minutes?
And he's putting pressure.
Askren thought it looked too easy, but at the same time, he thought the Frenchman could have hung on for a bit longer. He could have struggled a bit more. Who knows? He might have been able to get out of the choke because from the looks of it, Jones didn't have the perfect guillotine either. The positioning was a bit off, but all that is easier said than done, and at the end of the day, Bones dominated to become the heavyweight champion. Plus, he didn't even get touched. As impressive as his victory was, it's incredible how Gane didn't manage to land anything significant except for that low blow. We've seen the Frenchman dominating his opponents with beautiful striking, but I have no clue what went wrong against Jones. Was it the fear of going up against someone as mighty as Bones? Or was he afraid? Because if you ask me, he looked scared. There was some clear nervousness on his face, and I don't really blame him either. Signing a fight against the monster probably takes so much guts, let alone fighting him.
American history in this way, UFC history in this way. I wouldn't want it easy. I would not want it easy.
But yeah, guys like Joe Ellenberger and Terrence McKinney were stunned to see how he came out without a scratch. Because after being inactive for years, stepping inside the octagon can be quite nerve-wracking. You're no longer used to that pressure and intensity, and you can spar all you want, but it doesn't even come close to what things are like inside the cage.
Trying to get him in a mounted crucifix, he just needs to secure the right arm. Now he's going for a Kimura.
Oh, on top of that, he was fighting in a different class. He was carrying so much more weight, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but he didn't look too good either. I mean, he's known for having skinny legs, but he had a bit of a tummy. But does all that even matter when he's the heavyweight champion of the world? I don't think so.
Chael made it attempt at an armbar. Oh, Chael's
Swarming on is Jones. Big knee. Looking to finish.
Besides, the only person who can beat Jon Jones is, you guessed it, Jon Jones! Yves Edwards actually said this, and when you think about it, he's right. It was scary to see how calm and collected he was, because I've seen my fair share of fighters make a comeback after years of being inactive, and what I can tell you is, they're never as collected as Jones.
That's what Jones wants, to be the first man in the UFC to stop Quentin Rampage Jackson. Looking to do it right here.
It's almost as if they're still getting used to it again and don't really know where they are. But credit to Bones. He walked the octagon like he was king and came out of it with the title. Bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling also thought it was a legendary performance as Jon made it look super easy. Well, I didn't really want to say this because I still like Ciryl, but he looked like an amateur inside the cage. It almost seemed like a huge mismatch. I mean, Jon did an excellent job at taking him down and trapping him, but why in the world was he so hesitant? Or I don't know, it's like he just froze.
UFC title fight time.
I got goosebumps.
Every time.
Retired MMA fighter Jimmy Manua also thought Gane could have done a better job at escaping the guillotine because it didn't look that tight. But regardless of all that, Glover Teixeira declared Jon Jones the greatest of all time.
When Southpaw's got the leg, and no deny. Nicely done. Hard takedown by Jones.
Francis Ngannou, on the other hand, thought it was a good performance, but not enough to be crowned the heavyweight king. Oh, how things would have played out if it were Francis instead of Gane. That would have been the fight to watch, because then I think even Jones would be a little reluctant to go in for a quick takedown. One wrong move and you're gonna get smacked by the hardest hitter in the world. The former heavyweight champion shared a tweet on his social media congratulating him for his convincing victory, but labeled himself as the king of the division. And it's understandable why he'd do something like that, because at the end of the day, Ngannou does have the firepower to stun Jones. He probably would have suffered the same fate as the Frenchman if the fight went to the mats, but apart from that, I think he would have liked his chances. And this might be a bit off topic, but what are the chances of this super fight ever happening? Well, Bones is set to face Stipe next, and despite Ngannou reigning over the division for quite some time before his retirement, Stipe is still called the best heavyweight to ever fight for the promotion. So maybe, just maybe, if Jones manages to run through him as well, the UFC will be left with no other option to get Ngannou back and schedule this match to settle the debate once and for all. But that's something for a different day. Right now, let's talk about what John's arch nemesis had to say about the matchup. Daniel Cormier and Johnny Bones go way back. These guys are known for having one of the most intense rivalries ever. They absolutely hated each other back in the day, and despite being on better terms now, DC was still blown away by how easy John made it look. He mentioned how the newly crowned champion was talking about how easy it'll be for him to go in and dominate. He said it over and over again, but no one believed him. But regardless of all the criticism and hate, Jones still went in and did what he does best. Believe it or not, Daniel asked him whether Ciryl presents the challenge and fear he's been chasing, and even though John had an answer, the UFC commentator thought he was quite dismissive of his opponent. But either way, it doesn't change the fact that he believed what he said from day one. Though, does this settle the debate for good? I know what you're thinking. Didn't I just say he still needs to beat Stipe before being considered the GOAT? Well, does he have anything left to prove now? I mean, the youngest championship in UFC history, former lightweight and current heavyweight champion, most title fights in the history of the promotion, he's pretty much achieved it all. And I know he has a past, but keeping all that aside, I think Jon Jones is without a doubt the greatest fighter to ever step foot inside the octagon. And after such a dominant victory, I don't believe there's any room for argument. But yeah, that's what the pros thought about Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane.